Well, it looks like Trump just got a major win in the Supreme Court, full stop. That's what the dissent said. Ketanji Brown Jackson, the DEI hire judge, literally dissented and said full stop in her dissent when she was asked the question, how would you have felt if you didn't eat breakfast this morning? And she said, but I did, yo. I did eat it. So anyway, it was a crazy day today. Check this out.
Okay, yes. So this is at least a partial, if not a full, and we're reading this because there are several concurrences here, but it's written by Justice Barrett, which goes against the ruling that I just gave the guidance because she's one of the least junior justices, but she was assigned to write this opinion. And essentially what she says, some say that the universal injunctions give the judiciary a powerful tool to check the executive branch, but she says federal courts do not exercise general oversight of the executive branch. They resolve cases and controversies consistent with the authority Congress has given to them. When a court concludes the executive branch has acted unlawfully, the answer is not for the court to exceed its power, sounding very much like they are limiting these injunctions. We know here that they have granted at least partially the stay to these preliminary injunctions, but they say only to the extent that the injunctions are broader than necessary to...
All right, so what happened? The Supreme Court today officially decided that Donald Trump is allowed to be the president of the United States, and these lower courts can't block him from doing what he was elected to do. We're talking about that story, plus 500,000 Haitians are now going to be deported in 2 months. My question is, why are they waiting for so long? Additionally, we have some updates going on what's happening between Israel and Iran. We're talking about these stories and so much more here on another episode of The Rift, live Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Let's start the show. My name is Elijah Schaefer. I am the best worst host on the best of the worst shows here. This is The Rift. We are not live today. This is a pre-recorded episode on Friday. So be weary if you send in your super chats. We'll still take your money, but we're not going to be reading them at the end. Joining me today to talk about this and so much more is my guest. Tell us who you are and why you're here. He's a big name on Instagram, big influencer. Tell us about yourself.
Hey, I appreciate that. I go by RC online, the right corner. I mostly post on Instagram. I started posting on TikTok. And as we all know, TikTok is perhaps the worst social media platform in terms of getting demonetized and getting taken down. The rug will be put out from under you just for saying anything that even doesn't even break their guidelines. So Instagram's been more fair, I'll be honest. And I'm a Christian conservative content creator. And I say Christian first because a lot of these conservatives don't even know what the moral standard that they uphold. So, I've been doing this for close to 3 years now. And
wow.
Yeah, and I really want to fight to reestablish Christianity as the moral standard, because if it's not that, then what is it? And when I see people like Amber Rose getting invited to the RNC, that's, a porn star and pro-LGBT, pro-abortion, pro all the things that Christ isn't, I really have to ask myself, what is the moral standard that is guiding our movement? So that's a little bit of what I do.
I can tell you it's titties. Sorry, that's literally what the RNC is. It's like, hey, do you have blonde hair and fake implants? Do you want a job at Fox? That's actually true. I'm only 2 implants away from working at Fox. They always told me I just wasn't busty enough. But jokes aside, I'm really glad that you're here, man. We just got deleted off of TikTok for the 47th time. I've lost several accounts with hundreds of thousands of followers, so I know that. Speaking of somebody who's also been censored, Ben is currently shadow banned on Instagram. Co-host today. Tell us who you are, why you're here.
Hey everybody, happy to be back again. My name's Michael Hennessy from Snowflake_News. Really liking RC's shirt over here. I see we both are repping Jesus right now, so just looking forward to the show.
All right, we got to talk about the story today. So obviously you guys know, you don't have to be so familiar with it, but the Supreme Court had a monumental decision today. And I think this is a very important discussion because what they decided was not about the birthright citizenship, even though that's what they were debating. This wasn't about immigration. This was about our actual republic. This was about the separation of the legislative, judicial, and the executive, on how much power the president has to enact his civil service to his people, what they elected him to do, how much he can actually implement his agenda. This is an extremely serious case. Now, I am not joking when I was mentioning earlier today about how Ketanji Brown Jackson, who's the DEI judge appointed by Biden, she dissented to this case, which was trying to find out, do lower courts have the ability to block executive actions? Do they have the ability to block the president's edicts for the country? And I just love this. This is not a joke. I have a copy of her dissent. She said that lower courts should be allowed to block the president. She said, stated simply, what it means to have a system of government that is bounded by law is that everyone is constrained by the law, no exceptions. And for that to actually happen, courts must have the power to order everyone, including the executive, to follow the law, full stop. Dead ass. I bet you she drives a Nissan Altima. Jumping right into the discussion for this, we are living in a joke world where you have people who have wield so much power, so much authority. She has the ability to interpret the Constitution. And I want to jump here by saying it is odd to me that it's 6-3. These are people who interpret the Constitution, that it's not 9-0. As Greta Van Susteren said directly here, why is it that when we're talking about the very basic definition of what the Constitution means, is the Supreme Court and the interpreters of the Constitution confused and split on whether the executive branch has the power that it has? I am alarmed. And it was the three, it was Sotomayor, Kogan, whatever her name is, and Ketanji Brown Jackson, three dyke-looking liberal women who are godless. They don't fear man and they don't follow the Constitution. They decided that the Constitution doesn't really matter. Doesn't that alarm you a little bit that they don't believe the executive branch should have the power to enact what the people voted him to do? It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're questioning what the founding fathers founded for this country, what they established, and we elected Trump. We didn't elect these local judges to make decisions for our country and to push back against what Trump is what he promised to do.
Yeah, isn't it? But, okay, it's like, and of course it's the women with the dyke haircuts.
Yeah, it's always the same three. I was actually happy. It seems like Amy was on our side this time. Amy's kind of been switching back and forth.
Their cycles got unsynced this round. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So it kind of dodged it there. But yeah, no, I'm not surprised from these crazy judges. What they want to do is they want to allow the lower courts to go ahead and block everything Trump's been doing. I mean, we've seen in his previous administration, we're seeing it once again, where they just stand in the way of what the American people actually voted for. We voted for stricter immigration laws. We voted for, bring businesses back to America. I know they're giving him a hard time on tariffs before. So they pretty much do whatever they can to stand in his way, knowing that majority of the country voted for him. And in my opinion, not just once or twice, but 3 times, I believe we've elected him into office. But all it does is it just becomes roadblock after roadblock with a lot of these corrupt judges that just, it makes no sense where they want to put illegal immigrants before the American people. So I'm happy to see this ruling is coming in his favor, especially when it comes to the birthright citizenship. This has been a big problem for a long time. It was used originally for slaves is why they came up with it. But then they, the liberal system just pretty much found it as a loophole, tried to smuggle in as many illegals as they can to replace us as quick as possible. I know and also on the other hand, it's also been very profitable for, all the cartels in Mexico as well. So I'm glad to see we're getting closer to putting an end to this.
Yeah, well, as Trump said, I'm going to come. And he came quickly. No joke. That's not even a joke. He did say that. But beyond talking about what this defined or what this ended up deciding for our country, which is that Trump can go ahead with his agenda. This is very important, guys. You don't understand how important this is. The Supreme Court decided that the Constitution still exists. That's kind of a weird thing that we have to debate that. However, Trump has said now, then you know what? He's going to just go ahead full speed. Are we getting the Trump back from 2016? Listen to him talking about ending birthright citizenship. I think this is a great discussion that we can talk about whether this is good for the country or not, and what really defines an American. Listen.
And thanks to this decision, we can now promptly file to proceed with numerous policies that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis. And some of the cases we're talking about would be ending birthright citizenship, which now comes to the fore. That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation. This was, in fact, it was the same date, the exact same date, the end of the Civil War. It was meant for the babies of slaves, and it's so clean and so obvious. But this lets us go there and finally win that case, because hundreds of thousands of people are pouring into our country under birthright citizenship, and it wasn't meant for that reason. It was meant for the babies of slaves. So thanks to this decision, we can now properly file to proceed with these numerous policies and those that have been wrongly enjoined on a nationwide basis, including birthright citizenship, ending sanctuary city funding, suspending refugee resettlement, freezing unnecessary funding, stopping federal taxpayers from paying for transgender surgeries, and numerous other priorities of the American people. We have so many of them. I have a whole list. I'm not going to bore you, and I'm going to have Pam get up and say a few words, but there's really, she can talk as long as she wants because this is a very important decision. This is a decision that covers a tremendous amount of territory. But I want to just thank again the Supreme Court for this ruling. It's a giant. It's a giant. And they should be very proud, and our country should be very proud of the Supreme Court today.
Okay, so I want to go right to you on this. This is what he's saying. Hey, look, our system, this birthright system, has been used by people like Zohran Mamdani.
New York's
right?
about to pay the price.
Correct. It's like, your parents come, you end up basically, getting born here. Vivek's the same way. And then you put on a cowboy hat and go, yeehaw, everybody, I'm one of you. And it's like, that's not really a good idea, because in the end, my personal opinion, and you might disagree with me, I think that the only way that you should have citizenship in a country is if one of your parents and you're born were already a citizen of that country. So like my kids are dual citizens, which I joke that's why they're going to run for Congress one day, right? They're ready for that. They're dual citizens, Australian American, but their mom's an Australian citizen. So when we were in Australia, I wouldn't assume that my children should become Australians if I gave birth, my wife gave birth to them, if we were just Americans hanging out there. And I wouldn't have asked them for dual citizenship. I wouldn't have applied. But because their mom is, and then here they have citizenship because we're in two different countries. I don't believe that should exist. I actually don't think that system is right. As it stands, I am taking advantage of it because they get, we look at free surgeries, whatever they want in Australia, free college education. And then over here, they get freedom. So I understand that, but I definitely believe this idea of like Mexicans coming, especially here illegally, or even Chinese people coming here illegally, people going on vacations. Saudi Arabia had a program that they would actually pay for your education, for women to come to America if they were pregnant, so that they could have their babies here and they become American citizens. This is an abuse of the system, and I think this is right to end this, but that they're not, the people who hate our country, they're not going to let this slide very easily.
Right. Yeah, I think you guys said it right. I mean, this is a perversion of the Constitution. This is a perversion of what was originally intended for slaves. And what happens is, and I've heard a lot of arguments on TikTok from liberals in the live stream debates and on their videos, what ends up happening is it's not just the anchor baby, but the illegal parents then get to stay here too. And that has a cascade of negative effects. But what Trump is saying is that they criticize him for separating the families. There was a notable case where they're saying that there was a young girl, a child, that was going through cancer treatments, and Trump is separating her from her parents. I mean, what a disingenuous argument, because she's a child, the parents are illegal. She's technically legal here because of this perversion of the constitutional amendment. What do they want Trump to do? If the parents get kicked out, where's she going to go? She's a child. So do they want him to separate the family? He's trying to keep the family together. He's not going to remove the parents and keep her, under some kind of government supervision or put her in a foster care. He's saying, I don't want to separate the families. Go back home with your parents, and when you're of age, you can come back here if you want. You have a citizenship. So yeah, I mean, not only that they're perverting it, but they're making a bunch of disingenuous arguments. They're paying influencers on TikTok and social media platforms to just slander Trump and his administration for standing for what the Constitution really is originally fighting for. And it was not to have a bunch of anchor babies and have their illegal parents staying here wrongly and changing our culture.
Because what people are calling for is for Mamdani's citizenship to be revoked. And this is actually the debate happening today. I don't know if you saw that. We have a Congressman, Ogles.
Yeah, I seen I actually put that on one of our topics.
Oh, yeah. Well, I guess we'll get into that later. But people are talking about revoking or revocation of citizenship. I think, look, it is a tricky situation. On one hand, I think that would be really difficult, especially if you were born here and you feel like you're a part of the culture and society. I don't know if just revoking is necessarily like, the only option. Maybe there needs to be some sort of civics test. Maybe there needs to be a checking some countries you can stay here. If your country speaks English or if you share a common, culture, you can stay. But if you don't, then you need to go through some sort of program. Maybe you need to do some voluntary service, civil service for the country to earn that stay. These are really tough things, but this country wasn't founded on being weak. It wasn't founded on being nice. It was founded on blood and sweat and tears. And that's how any nation is made. It's conquered and built, and we've allowed ourselves to be conquered through this immigration problem. This is all over the West. We are being internally conquered. And we saw in New York, we're not pushing white supremacy or something on the show, but what we do know is that when there's a reduction of white people in America, as it's become less white, it has gone more progressive, it has gone more liberal, and in areas where white people move out, the cities tend to decay, and that's just a factual statement. And so we have to ask ourselves, do we want to be nice and in decay and in decline, or do we want to tell maybe some black crack addicts, you can't pee in the subway, and if you do, you're not going to be allowed to stay here? I feel like there's a certain point where we got to stop caring about how we look, and we've got to do what's right for the nation.
Yeah, we definitely got to be a lot stricter on everything that's going on. The American people are sick and tired of having our borders, overflowed with these illegal immigrants. We've seen what it's done to our communities. We've seen what it's done to families. People are being attacked all the time. Crime rates are going through the roof. Now, I know it's a hard thing as far as if they've already had their citizenship. I don't know how we can go about that as far as the birthright citizenship previously. Maybe, as you mentioned, that they can take kind of civics test or something of that nature, some way to incorporate them in. But the good thing is I'm glad is that the days of Guadalupe hopping over the wall and just pumping out a baby, that those days are over of giving them citizenship.
They did shut down the border, though. Trump, gotta give credit. Trump did get the border closed.
He did shut down the border. I'm glad to see that we have this now. I was a little bit don't want to say too discouraged, but I was a little discouraged when I seen the numbers coming in of how many people were actually being sent back to their country. But the one thing that they're doing too is, as you mentioned before, with the little girl with cancer, or maybe even the story with the Maryland man, what they're trying to do is they're trying to pull on the heartstrings of us and try to manipulate, each scenario. So that way the American people want to push back against, Trump's agenda. But the main thing is that this is what we all voted for. I think we should have mass roundups. I think we need to go around and start getting everybody who's here legally, you got to go. And if we got to run into Home Depots or if we got to run into different areas, then so be it. We can't allow our country to do this decline, and we have to stop worrying, as you mentioned, about our personal image. We need to be a country of strength. We need to be a country that wants to have a great future for us, and not only just us, but our children, because this is the ones that we're leaving the country to once we're gone. So something has to be done, and it has to be done with a firm hand. Yeah,
okay. And I want to, Stephen Miller weighed in on this. Stephen Miller, it's kind of funny because, there's a lot of talk against Jews today, right? There's a lot of there's a lot of talk, and it makes sense because Jews are involved in a lot of, nefarious activities, and they're at the top of the social ladder. But Stephen Miller is Jewish, and he seems to be like the most outspoken voice against illegal immigration. That's kind of an interesting, comment, because a lot of the current discussion is like, oh, Jews are behind, the illegal immigration issue. But then you have Stephen Miller, who's fighting the illegal immigration issue and even legal immigration issue. So it does bring up some nuance here, right? There's a little bit of a question of okay, what's really going on here? Who's really to blame? What's actually happening? I think you got to have an intellectual conversation about this. Before we talk about that, though, guys, I want to remind you, obviously, men are not standing up for what they believe in. That's a huge problem. And the reason why is because we call it male-to-male transsexuality. Men look like men, but they talk like men, but they don't act like men. And what do I mean? I don't mean that they're just kissing. They are today. A lot of guys are kissing each other. But if they keep their socks on, it's not gay. However, the main issue that we have today is actually just men are not men of action. They're not willing to be, called racist or misogynistic. They're afraid of doing what's right because they're afraid of, what if girls are going to get mad and all this gynocentric nonsense. Well, a lot of that times that's because men have low testosterone. There's been a bigger war than illegal immigration, and it's the toxic chemical warfare on a man's hormonal system. It's particularly his testosterone and free testosterone. Right now, the only way that you can get your testosterone levels back up where they need to be to get your libido higher, your erections harder, you can go more rounds in bed, and most importantly, yeah, sure, sex is a huge part of being a man. We all love that. We want to perform better. but it's also getting things like your grip strength up, your determination, the ability for you to like stand against the crowd. These are all hormone-linked behavioral traits. And, you know, you can buy fenugreek, IGF, NO2, different clinically proven ingredients over the counter, but you take them orally and they degrade in your stomach. So you have to actually either inject them into your body, or you can do this new sublingual liquid with a carbon delivery system patented by Americans for Americans that actually allows you to have 98% absorption of all of the clinically proven ingredients that can boost your testosterone up to 46%. Pick up a bottle of Man's Edge right now at ElijahIGF1.com, promo code Elijah. But if you select auto ship, you can get 2 bottles for the price of 1. So it's buy 1, get 1 free. That's already 50% off. And then additionally, if you use the promo code Elijah, you get 10% off that. So for 60% off, you get 2 bottles. It's kind of better than, you know, it's kind of actually insane. So even cheaper than the price of a 1 bottle traditionally. Type in ELIJAH, IGF, the number 1.com, promo code Elijah. Get 60% off on auto ship. Plus, you will find yourself getting your vitality back. Make sure that you join many of us today who are on a journey to fix our testosterone levels. And let's talk about someone who does have some high tea right now. Stephen Miller weighed in on Newsmax talking about birthright citizenship being the greatest scam. Listen to this.
Birthright citizenship is the biggest, costliest scam in financial history. An illegal alien can come here 9 months pregnant or on a tourist visa, 9 months pregnant, have a baby. That baby is then declared an automatic citizen, which then entitles the entire family to come here and live here. And every one of them can get welfare. Yes, they can get unlimited welfare, applying as the custodian of this citizen, so-called child. The biggest financial ripoff of Americans in history, not to mention the fact that it is the #1 magnet for illegal immigration and invasion, and that is used by foreign governments to conduct espionage against the United States. Because now, see, we can keep out a foreign spy who has a visa, who's trying to get permission to board an airplane. But what happens when a foreign government uses this ridiculous birthright scam in order to create automatic citizens who then grow up as assets of a foreign government? So it's a major national security threat. The 14th Amendment, the provisions in question were ratified for the children of freed slaves. You can go read the minutes of the debate. They were talking about the children of freed slaves after the Civil War.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right.
The idea that this was meant to provide illegal alien children with automatic citizenship. Do you really think that in the 19th century, 3/4 of states all got together to pass an amendment to say that people that Congress has forbidden from entering here can have automatic children citizens? I mean, the idea is so far beyond even the outer limits of imagination. No human being who suggests it should be taken serious.
Newsmax, which is actually down the street. It's weird. We're here. Newsmax is down the street. Ben Shapiro's down the street. Everyone's right here in the middle of good old Boca Raton. But my guest today, I wanted to talk about that. You know, there's a lot of good points here. He's like a based Mark Levin. Like if Mark Levin wasn't a fat slob and actually made sense, right? If Mark Levin took 1 week off of trying to get young Christian men killed in foreign wars, right? That'd be crazy, Mark. It is true. It's like there are things that we have not questioned in our country that have been used to undermine us. It is absolutely insane. As I mentioned with Saudi Arabia, they had that program for their women to come to school here. They would pay for their education if they would have children. It is somewhat interesting to me that we allowed ourselves to get this far. And the question is, are we too far deep to reverse what's going on? Is the country too un-European, too un-Christian to actually get back to where we need to be? Is this performative, or is reversing and revoking the birthright citizenship here? Could this give us at least some containment to where we can ask ourselves what the hell's going on, and maybe at least buy ourselves some time to find a solution? Because I think the solution is going to be really, really nasty, and it's going to be very, very, very difficult to swallow. I'm sure you know that too. And I know that everyone's trying to stop us, including James Lindsay, including Konstantin Kisin. They're trying to stop this Christian nationalism. They're trying to stop God, you know? So we got enemies on all fronts. I don't know what your thoughts are on it.
Yeah, it's funny that they use Christian nationalism as a boogeyman term, and I'm proudly a Christian nationalist. There's nothing wrong with putting Christ first and putting the interest of America first. And to respond to that video, he seems to be an exception to the rule. Stereotypes do exist for a reason. obviously there is an incentive to to pervert and to pervert the culture essentially of Christian Americans. And one way to do that is, as you said, with Saudi Arabia or these Middle Eastern countries sending their women here, or Mexico sending their people here, and you're removing the Christian American culture that is the bedrock of our society. When you have a bunch of people here that don't assimilate with that culture, look what's happening in the United Kingdom. Look what just that mayor that was just elected he was the primary now in New York. This perverts the culture that we've always had. So I'm very much a Christian nationalist, and anything that pushes against that, I'm just going to be against. But I want to say one more thing. Christ is the only thing that is going to save us. No politician, no amendment being passed, nothing that a human being can make it could contain it. Like you said, it's going to contain it, but Jesus Christ is the only solution.
Can I ask you a question though? Do we want more Christians here, or is race still a factor? Like, do you think like Congo being like a predominantly Christian country, but obviously not really sharing any of our values? Do you think that there still is an importance in our country to select carefully what countries, whether they're Christian or not, based upon racial and cultural differences? Or is it Christ is the only factor? Because that's a big debate on the right now, right? What do we select by? What do you think?
Christ absolutely comes first. That doesn't mean that you don't have a filter of people that their culture is so extremely different from ours. But I have to be principled here. Christ is absolutely center of my life, and I want to be in a neighborhood with based principled Christians. So
what does that mean, that Christ is the center of your life? Like, what is it? Just like, how is your life different from somebody who's, like a decent, somebody who's not doing like egregious illegal things, right? I'm not talking about that, but like somebody who's just like living their life. What does that mean? Like, if you want people to have Christ being the center, a lot of people who watch the show are not Christians, or they're, Christ, they call them like Christ curious, Christ adjacent, right? We grew up in it or whatever. But like, what does that mean as a young man to like actually live out your life? And why would we also want that?
Well, I have an objective basis to my morality. I don't walk around believing things just because it feels right in the moment, and the next month, because someone gave me a convincing argument, I now think something is immoral, where a month prior, I thought it was moral. So Christ-centered in my life is I have an objective standard that I live my life by, and I will die for it. That's what I think the definition of believe is. You will die for something. So before I was a Christian, I just did willy-nilly whatever I wanted, whatever felt right, whatever people around me at that time were saying, this is the right thing to do. I have a book. I have a moral system that has worked, that has built the Western civilization for thousands of years. That
makes sense. And that goes into your voting and everything.
Everything. Christ first.
All right. I don't know if you want to weigh in on this, but I mean, you also have everyone's got a Jesus shirt. I feel like I messed up.
You're messed up, man. You didn't get the memo on this one.
I have a Quran in the office. I do. Some Muslims gave it to me. But go ahead.
I mean, of course, what I want in the world is I want everybody to be drawn closer to Christ. I want them to have that relationship with Jesus. It's very important, and it's how we should be our foundation, which we build upon. But as far as our country goes, I do believe that we need to keep our ethnicity of what the original founders are as the primary ethnicity. We can collect people from all over the world that can be Christian, but then they're not really Americans. It's kind of like a little bit separate. Does that mean that just, I guess saying like, if they come here and they believe in God, that's great because it keeps those same moral principles. But after a while, we're going to kind of wash out who we are. I've said it numerous times. I think Americans should stay majority like, European descent. Whereas if in Mexico, they should stay majority Mexican. I don't think any country should lose their, who they are and what their culture is because they decide to pile a bunch of people in that we can't house, and we have all these different kinds of separations from us. So I do believe that, as you mentioned, Jesus is the only one that can save us from this. Jesus is the one. Politicians aren't going to save us. But I also believe that we need to be strong Christian men who stand up to it as well, and make sure that we do preach the word of God and we also carry ourselves accordingly, and is that going to be easy? No, that's not going to be easy because the devil doesn't rob empty houses. The closer you draw to God, the more you're going to be attacked, the more you're going to have enemies against you. And, and also if you look at the disciples, they didn't end up very good towards the end, but they never denied God. So, as strong Christian men, we have to stand up to the wickedness. We have to be the light in the darkness. And I think that's what we're seeing now. Yes, some of the things may come off strong of what we do, but it's for the greater good of our country and also for God.
Yeah, I wouldn't particularly call myself like a strong Christian, you know, but like, but I'm really glad people are, you know what I mean? Like, cause I think a lot of young men are becoming strong Christians, and I think, you know, what that means for the country can only be good, because a lot of people are just so esoteric and, you know, ethereal and open-minded that we need more people to be closed and rigid. Like, people need to accept the boundaries. However, I do say there's definitely a truthful statement here. It's definitely Christianity, because this Mormonism stuff, guys. I saw a clip today. This is crazy, and I'm not even meaning to talk poorly about him, because he's actually a really nice guy, and it's easy to talk smack on people on the internet, right? Like, but like, dude, Zerka posted this. You know, this guy. You know, what's his name again?
Sonny Faz.
Sonny Faz, yeah, and he's been on the show. He's a really nice guy. I have nothing evil to say about him, but it's like, you know, he's a white guy, and he's what, Italian, I think, right? Yeah, he's Italian, something like that.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, he's Italian. So, you know, whether he's white or not, it's up for question. But you know, he converted to Islam.
Inshallah.
Akbar. I mean, the man's wearing a bed sheet, you know, in public. And I just, like, and it's not to be rude, but my guy, you know, Zerka's right. He's like conquered, you know, you conquered yourself. And I said, chronically online and easily influenced. It's like hanging out with Sneeko too much. And this is what happens. This is why you, like, it's like, I've only met women who change their mind more than Sneeko. That's, I mean, because that's, you know, I've literally never
He's
seen
loving
someone.
the new mayor. The guy who's in the primary or whatever. He's loving him. That
he'll hate him tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He'll start telling you why 10 reasons. He'll vote for him and tell you 10 reasons why you shouldn't have voted for him. I've never seen someone change their opinion more. And you know, everyone knows I had a famous crash out against Sneeko that had to delete, so I got my channel deleted. But then again, he did make me lose a bunch of money. And originally the studio was built to do a show with him and some other people, and Fuentes and Myron's like built this whole thing out to do the show, and then he canceled like the day before. So that was actually crazy. So I rightfully was angry. However, bringing that up about like young people becoming, what do you think about this? Let me bring this up. Like there's a bunch of people who are looking for God, and then people are converting to Islam. It's like, you've got to have a strong opinion on this, and not against Sonny's a nice guy. I mean, again, this is not a crash out on Sonny. I like him. He's a cool guy. He makes good content too. But like, I also got to be real. Now he's trying to convert people towards Islam, and like, I can't support that.
Yeah, I think that's evil.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. I have a lot of Muslims that reach out to me on Instagram, and they say, hey man, I thank you. I love you for calling out the Zionist control in the conservative movement, the Jewish influence that you know, has invested a lot of money into the Trump campaign, the Jewish Zionist control really over our country. I don't like your religion. I mean, that's evil. Jesus Christ is God. I don't, they do sort of respect Jesus as a prophet, but I absolutely think that's wrong. I want to see him baptized in a church. I want to see him following Christ. I don't want to see, this is where we may have a little bit of difference. I don't care what his race is. I don't want to see anyone, you know, being led away from Christ. I don't want to see anyone being put into a different religion that is evil.
Islam's, I believe Islam's not for white people. We are like, Arab Muslims have been trying to conquer white Christian nations. It is literally what's been going on for like 1400 years. And we've been pushing them back and pushing them back and pushing them back. And so it's like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, you're conquered because Islam isn't just a religion. It's a way of life. It's a culture. And there's no business with that culture in any white country, period. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, they're literally invading Europe right now. Don't you? I mean, you mentioned the UK.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Islam is for the Middle East. You know, they want to abide by the Quran as their moral system. Keep it there. If Israel wants to abide by the Talmud and Judaism and rejecting Christ, keep it there. We are a Christian first nation. We were built on those principles. Keep it a Christian nation. And if he wants to go to the Middle East and do that, it's his choice. I do want to say one thing though. I mean, I don't know what your guys' beliefs on this are, but Jesus was not ethnically white from my understanding. So we're the Gentiles. We're the ones that are supposed to be if we accept Christ grafted into the tree. It's not select for any one race. The only race that thinks that they're better than, according to the Talmud, there's only one race that believes that. Jesus says we're all equal in the eyes of God. There's only one way to the Father, and that's through Jesus Christ.
I think you're going to say there's only one race better than everyone. And I was going to say, I mean, foundational black Americans. Foundational. We all know. They invented the pyramid, science, a lot of these things. They invented inventions. And they need reparations. Did you see what's his name? What's the brother who Jesse Lee Peterson? Jesse Lee Peterson was talking to a foundational black American. He's like, so when are black people gonna stop begging? And the guy's like, excuse me? He's like, yeah, when are you gonna stop begging? And he's like, begging for what? He's like, oh, reparations. And the guy's like, I'm not begging. He goes, how much you want? And he's like, $70,000 to $300,000. I was like, that's a huge that's a huge range. And like 70,000 you can buy a car, 300,000 you could put down money on a home. Like it's like, bro, you want reparations, you got to come with like a proposal, brother. You got to like explain to me on a chart. I need a pie graph, right? You got to tell me what you're going to do with the money. Because I just thought it was actually so funny. He called it that the foundational black Americans are just sitting around begging. What a lame place to be in. And I want to make sure everyone never becomes a victim, because there's a lot of young white guys too, particularly in America, who are angry at the anti-white racism that's prevalent in our country. And instead of and then they all like, I see this all the time. It's like, dude, if the system was different, I would be further ahead. I would have found a wife. And I mean, straight guys fall into this too. Just like Christian guys, like, dude, there's no women out there. Like, they're all hoes and whatever. And it's like, hey, just remember, like, just because it's harder now maybe to achieve something for you, or it's more rare to find someone like this, like, it was kind of hard to establish a colony too, like maybe life is not as easy as it was in some aspects economically as your parents, or you don't have the same opportunities. But, we're just talking, I'm not going to mention who it is. We're just talking about tonight about a young lady in her 20s that's, kept herself pure and looking for a husband or whatever. They exist. They're out there. I know some. So it's like, just because you're not finding them, sitting on your couch posting swastikas may not find you a beautiful wife. It just might not do it, I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm not saying there should be any laws against it. I'm just saying, just LARPing around is not going to solve any of your problems. You got to be a doer, right? Doer of the word, not a hearer only. But I don't know if you want to weigh in on the bed sheet. I don't.
Yeah,
it's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah, I don't like that it's infiltrating our country more and more, as you mentioned over in Europe. If they want to stay in their country and have that, then that's on them. I do wish, once again, like you mentioned, that they do find their way to Jesus Christ. We're all the children of God. We just have to choose him, so this way we can be closer. But what we're seeing is it's pretty much like a cancer. It's already gone into the UK. You see multiple kids that are going to these type of events and they're praising different religions. They're drawing further away from God. And a lot of times this may be because it's a trend, maybe because they just see, a lot of people doing it. But I believe we're going to see that more of that here in the United States, unfortunately, especially what happened in New York City and multiple other areas. We're going to see this grow more and more. And that's why it's more important than ever that we go out, we preach the word of God, that we share the truth with everybody, and we do it unapologetically, but in a loving way at the same time.
Yeah, but I was going to say, to clarify, because people always end up watching the segments when I talk about them on the show. It always ends up getting to people. Tasani, you're welcome on the show. I don't understand it. You're welcome to come here and explain it to me. I literally do not get the white guy converting to Muslim thing. I thought, and also you're not even ginger. You know what I mean? So that doesn't even make sense. Okay, I get if you're ginger. For some reason, it's always fat gingers that are converting to Islam. You know what I mean? But I guess, we didn't lose a soul because they never had one to begin with. You know what I'm saying? All right, getting back to this idea though, my point was that immigration does change cultures, religion. These things are very important. We can't pretend like we can just have any religion, any culture, any idea. Even remember, guys, this is what people say, it's racist to talk about preserving our European ancestry and stuff. Why did people even leave that weren't white to come to white countries? We got a couple non-white guys sitting in the back here who have completely integrated into Western society and are Westerners. It's like they're not, maybe their skin color isn't white, but there is a white culture and they've taken it on and this guy's so into it. Look at his shirt's white too. Do you see that? Go back to that. Let me see that. Look at that. Boom. He's even wearing a white t-shirt. Look at that. Oh yeah. No, but I meant like, people leave India and Pakistan and Mexico to go live in a polite white society, just like some people don't like the ruggedness and the rigidness and the lack of morality in Western culture, so they'll go to a more traditional Latin country. Like, the same reason why men will go marry Asian women, because there's something different about them. They're submissive. Like, these differences exist, and it doesn't make you a hateful person to acknowledge them. And it also doesn't mean, like, it's like, well, if there's no white countries, there's no white culture, then why did you leave India?
Yeah.
Oh, to get away from Indians and Indian culture, and to come where? To a non-Indian. So what is it, just not Indian, or does it have an identity? It does. But I want to play this. The ACLU, of course, is going to be fighting this. Remember, the ACLU is also headquartered where? New York and Boca Raton. That's they're actually here. It's not a joke. Chabad is also New York and here.
Of course they are. Yeah.
And the biggest Jewish civil rights center here in the entire country is here in Boca Raton. It's massive. You should check it out. Listen to this.
There are still many open pathways to block President Trump's illegal and unconstitutional birthright citizenship order and ensure that all babies born in the U.S. are equal citizens, as the rule has been in our country since the end of the Civil War. The case that the ACLU has brought with partner organizations will continue. We'll be filing a motion for class certification today. And that's one of the ways in which people who are harmed around the country by President Trump's effort to end birthright citizenship will be able to go and get protection from the court.
Check out that image. That's what our founding fathers wanted for America, right? That's just traditional, classic American people fighting for America. Also, with that kind of money on CNN, does he not know about finasteride and minoxidil? I feel like there's ways to save your hair when you have that kind of money. Anyway, that's the side note. Never understood people who make a lot of money who let themselves go bald. I never got that. Save the hair, you know what I mean? Save the children. I don't know if you want to weigh in on this, but I think it's like, of course, the ACLU is here.
Of course.
To ensure that there's as many people moving here as possible that are not Western.
Yeah, I'm surprised if they're having them come towards Boca. They usually like to bring up the topic, but don't like to merge with everybody. The one thing in Florida I will say, though, that we have also in the doc is
the ACLU is here. They're not trying to bring the people here.
Oh.
The ACLU headquarters they have one in New York and one in Boca.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just telling you that they're here, but they don't want any illegals coming.
That's what I'm saying.
Raton.
They don't want no illegals here.
No. They'll ship you out. It's illegal.
Yeah.
It's illegal to be illegal here.
They'll be like, it's a great idea. I think it's wonderful, but just do it in someone else's yard.
I really like them coming, but really not around these parts. I want them to be around the other ones. It's like in Minnesota. Yeah, around those places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, right now we have Ron DeSantis. He's building Alligator Alcatraz.
Hell yeah.
I don't know if you guys heard about it. I actually have it in the doc. I'm bringing this up. Yeah, the update on it is that it's almost complete, actually. So we're going to put them into these camps and surround them with alligators.
The citizens of Boca Raton, or because that's what I'm trying. I'm trying to put
lucky.
Boca residents in there.
Yeah.
As we talk about that, I'm going to play a video right now about this Alligator Alcatraz. Speaking of that, though, you might be kind of hot and sunny out in the in the swamps. It's so weird living in Florida because maybe you guys get it out on the West Coast side of it, but like it is literally like disgusting during the summer here. It's like actually like feral. You don't even want to go outside. I'm staying in an Airbnb right now. I'm in between houses. Say I'm homeless, but it's cool. It's a nice homeless place. It's got a jacuzzi and a sauna and stuff like that. But most importantly, guys, I mean, I was going to confess later in the show, but I'll bring it up now. I'm white, okay? And I hate to admit it, but it's true, which means that I burn really easily in the sun. And I always like to have like a sunscreen that gives me a little bit of sun exposure without all the harmful UV. But I found out that all these sunscreens out there have like carcinogens in them. They're actually causing skin cancer. I don't know if you heard about that. Luckily, there's this company called Van Man that we sponsor us, that we've partnered with. Now, everyone knows I've been talking about their beef tallow balm. It's like can replace your petroleum jelly. And if you don't use petroleum jelly, your high school son does, so you should probably get rid of that. But it can replace your chapstick, replace your moisturizer. It's made with honey and essential oils, so only natural ingredients. It's the best moisturizer for men, women, pregnant women can use it. But most importantly, they have other products. This is a company that has everything you use every day without any of the harmful ingredients. This is what I want trying to push right now. This is the tallow and zinc sunblock. So this is amazing stuff. It has nothing that's unnatural in it. It even comes in a metal tin because they don't really use plastic. They use like metal and glass. So even the packaging holds up to their value so you don't get microplastics in your products. This stuff is amazing. It protects. You should see how My wife's whiter than I am, and you should see my kids. They're clear. You know what I mean? There's a drink named after my son. It's called Everclear, and that's really true. You can see his like veins and stuff. And I cake this stuff on him, and it protects him in the sun. It's very, very cute. I love watching my kids play outside. I don't like watching them get burned. So if you're looking for a solution right now to keeping your skin from cracking and aging, whether you want deodorant without aluminum, you want tooth powder without any fluoride in it, all the products that your family uses now without harmful ingredients in safe packaging, 10% off with my promo code Elijah at vanman.shop/Elijah. That's vanman.shop/ELIJAH. That's vanman.shop/Elijah. Check it out. Links on the screen and the description. Listen to this. Here's the Alligator Alcatraz. Watch.
Attorney General James Uthmeyer here at the Miami-Dade Collier training facility. This is an old, virtually abandoned airport facility right in the middle of the Everglades. Florida's been leading on immigration enforcement, supporting the Trump administration and ICE's efforts to detain and deport criminal aliens. The governor tasked state leaders to identify places for new temporary detention facilities. I think this is the best one. As I call it, Alligator Alcatraz. This 30 square mile area is completely surrounded by the Everglades. Presents a efficient, low-cost opportunity to build a temporary detention facility because you don't need to invest that much in the perimeter. People get out, there's not much waiting for them other than alligators and pythons. Nowhere to go, nowhere to hide. Within just 30 to 60 days after we begin construction, it could be up and running and could house as many as 1,000 criminal aliens. This presents a great opportunity for the state of Florida to work with Miami-Dade and Collier County.
Okay.
Now, they actually have an update on this.
Is it in there?
The second video down. So Ron DeSantis says this should be up and running by the July 2nd. He believes that it'll already be ready to go. They've already put up the tents. They put up different housing. They put in the air conditioners and everything. So this way they won't be attacked for putting them in harsh conditions.
Is this Okeechobee, Florida?
It's the second one down.
Yeah, right here. This one, right here.
Yeah.
Right, the Fox News one?
Correct.
All right, well, okay, check this out.
No problem. But all the stuff that goes into intake and processing of illegals, you're seeing this put up. This is all 24 hours. 24 hours from now, you're going to see even more. And by Tuesday, this will be able to have intake of illegals.
And you've thought of everything. Okay, so there are 4 gigantic tents. Let's come on over here, Governor. And people are thinking, okay, you're in the middle of the Everglades. It's hot. That would explain why you've got this bank of air conditioners here.
Yeah, so I mean, this is going to be, illegals will come in, they'll be processed, there'll be places for them to be housed, you'll have an ability for food, you'll have an ability for them to consult legal rights if they have that, because there is a process that's involved with this. So this is really everything. This is going to be a self-contained little area. And then, of course, you also have stuff for the staff that work here. So we've got laundry facilities, we've got showers, we've got, obviously, there you see the shower and bath facilities.
Yeah, right there.
Yep.
Where do you go to get a bunch of bathrooms like that?
Well, so this is being done by the Division of Emergency Management. So when we have a hurricane, like we would actually have people stage here for hurricane response normally, anyways, but we have it. When we have all the linemen come in to do the power, we have to set up little areas for them. And so you have all this type of stuff. So this is not our first rodeo. The detainee illegal alien mission's a little bit different, and the deportations, but logistics, we know how to do that.
Right, and you know, for people thinking, okay, they're gonna put the migrants on this hot asphalt, it looks like you're building a subfloor, and in fact, some guys putting down the plywood.
Yeah, no, look, this will be, I mean, there's not going to be anything that they're hurting for anything. There'll be AC. There'll be things that everybody needs. There's medical here.
That's actually kind of crazy. I mean, I don't think they're going to use this for illegals. I think they're just going to keep this as a permanent stage for during hurricanes to put the linemen, and then they're just using probably federal money to justify this. That's kind of my opinion, because Florida doesn't have any state tax, so I don't know where they got the money for this from. It must be from our highways, all the tax we pay driving on the roads. But it's like, I think we do too much for illegals. I think we should take knives and cut the boats and then let them sink. You know what I mean?
Wasn't it the Texas governor that was putting sort of barbed wire around certain areas in Texas? We got to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
I saw that it was a little while ago, but with the illegal Haitians trying to get into Florida, I saw some of the border patrol on horses. You remember that?
They said they were whipping them, but they were really just trying to, there was just the reins of the horse.
It was the camera angle. They tried to manipulate the story and take a picture at a different angle.
I wish they they were right. I wish they were
Yeah.
actually whipping them. I mean, why are you bringing these? How is this even controversial that we're trying to prohibit illegal people from getting into our sovereign nation?
Yeah, I don't think we do okay, this is like really crazy. This is why it's hard to tackle the illegal problem. Do you want to know the real reason why? The real reason why is because we refuse to acknowledge what an American is. And the reason why we refuse to, even people that know it, is because it's difficult to say because everybody knows that there's exceptions to the definition. And just like when you bring up who commits the most amount of violent crime, and everybody knows, right? Everybody knows. The problem is that everyone also knows someone from that same ethnic group who's a great individual who also is tired and fatigued by their own in-group, you know? They're tired of it too. So it's really hard to then say, we should have separate laws for that group and our group, or we should be harder on that group because everyone knows not everyone is unruly and comes from a bad home and, you know, has a low IQ. You know that's not how it is. And I think with an American, we have so many non-European, non-foundational Americans here, so many people in the conservative movement that have really adopted and adapted to the Western identity and culture that it's really hard to just say that American means a white person, right? That's a European person, because we know a lot of people that are not white who really, really do hold on to American ideas and values. And even harder than people, it's always been the minority, though. It's always been a minority of the minorities that are that adopt the white Western values. The rest of them, you know, obviously are very radically left. They're very, very democratic, very communist, very socialist. But what's been even more difficult to redefine what an American is the last election with Trump, the amount of Hispanics that swung conservative, right? It's almost more conservative than it is not conservative, which is not surprising because Hispanics have a traditionally very conservative culture and ideas. But a lot of people are starting to adopt this more Americanized way of life. I do think that, you know, up until 1965, to be an American, everyone knew what that meant. It was a white person from European heritage that lived in the former colony. And, you know, we even, you know, blacks identified. Was it Jesse Jackson? Who was it that popularized African American? Who was it? Was it Martin Luther? Who was it? I don't remember who it was. Someone did. It was in the last 50 years. My point was that being an American, we did have slaves. We did have black people who were American citizens. They were naturalized. They were brought in under law. And now we have 160, I think, nationalities in this country or something like that, are in like 131 languages I was reading, something crazy like that. It's like, who gets to stay, who gets to go, who's really an American, who's not. I can tell you this, I don't think Muslims are American. Like, we could start by removing all the Muslims. Like, that's my personal opinion. Like, I don't think we should have any Muslims in this country. I think they all can go. Like, I mean, that's pretty simple to me. I think I make some guidelines. I think if you're a birthright, if you're an anchor baby, you're gonna have to go. I think that if you come from a culture that's not Western, if you're not from a European culture, we should reevaluate your status here and possibly you might need to leave. I think there's a lot of things we'd have to do, but I don't think that's ever going to happen. I think our country is just generally cooked, and all we can do is slow down the demise. I'm saying that it'd be too hard. No one's going to go for any of this. No one's ever going to go to, sorry to the white nationalists and like Wignats, America's never going to go to a point to where what's the definition of an American is that it means you're white. Like, it's never going back to that. Like, there could be a civil war and collapse, and there could be another nation that goes and adopts that, right? I'm not saying it couldn't happen on this land, but like America, the Federation, the Empire, like that is a wild dream of people. There's a lot of people on the right that think that's going to happen right now, and I don't think there's any evidence that that's going to happen. I'm just letting you know. I don't know if you agree with that, but look, I don't think that's ever. We're not going back to that.
No, I don't think we're going to go back to that. You know, one thing we have to do, though, is we do have to stop the bleeding. You know, once we stop the bleeding, we could better evaluate what's going on with our country and how we can help fix it. Do I think that we're going to be running around rounding everybody up? You know, no, I don't think that's going to happen. And I do believe there has to be, you know, some kind of strong intervention to try to bring us back, but we'll never be back to originally where we were. What we have to do now moving forward is we have to make sure that we are going ahead and we are removing those who are here illegally. Birthright citizenship, I know it is tough because of if they lived here their whole life and then they've, you know, assimilated to America, they have the same kind of values. it does make it rough, but something does have to be done. And I know you mentioned that a lot of Spanish people now go for Trump, and they have American values, but that's not all countries that are like that are Spanish. You know, what you find is usually people who've left places like Cuba or other countries where they've already dealt with socialism. They've already dealt with, you know, the terrible effects it has over time, and they know how it's a bad idea. They're the ones usually that are more conservative because they're like, okay, we've already played this game. We don't want to play this game again. So you see a lot of that. But something does have to be done, and I really hope that we wake up as a country. And I'm not totally against immigration myself. You know, if you come here legally, you've shown that, you know, you are going to benefit the country. If you've shown that, you know, you are assimilating and that you have our beliefs and our values, then I'm not against people coming in. I do think there has to be a limit, though, of how many we're bringing in, because we don't want to drown ourselves out. Really,
is it linked to skin color, though? Because I think that's sort of the divide right now of like people are saying. They're using a euphemism for white right now. You hear it called a third world immigration, right? And it like they say become the third world, import the third world. Well, they're not talking about any white country. They're talking about mostly non-white countries. It's a softer way of bringing up a very contentious topic, and I understand that because no one wants to have a racial conversation. It's very, very damaging. It's divisive. But I think it's fair enough to ask the question here. Is that what you mean? Like stop immigration from non-white countries, or all, like including like what if like a white blonde girl from Sweden wants to come here? Is that problematic, or are you talking about, you know, like what is it that we're trying to, like, what bleed, or what is it we're trying to stop?
You know, first off, I guess yes, you could say that if they came from, I don't want to say just whites, because you do have good people on every side. You know what I mean? But at the same time, a lot of those people who are different ethnicity usually don't carry the same values, don't carry the same beliefs, and that's why we run into a lot of those problems that we have now. Me personally, I think that we should close down immigration just for a little bit till we figure this mess out. We shouldn't be bringing anybody else in. Obviously, we don't have our stuff together. Obviously, it's causing chaos all around us, so we have to get that problem fixed. That would be the first step that I would say.
What do you think? Yeah,
to weigh in here a little bit. So nobody finds it controversial that Japan wants to keep their Japanese ethnicity. Nobody finds it controversial that it's next to impossible to get a residency or citizenship in China unless you're Chinese. And that, unless you're a country that is predominantly white, trying to keep it, your culture and your race, then it becomes controversial. So I don't think that's hidden. And I want to ask a question at the end, but I'm going to wait, you know, to bring that up in a second. But the other thing I want to say is this. I, as a white person, right, I've always, in elementary school, middle school, was always taught, you as a white person, you have to accept all races, accept all cultures, accept all religions, accept it all. Don't be a bigot, okay? And I've tried to practice that. I've tried to be friends with Indians. I remember two of my better friends that I met when I first went to college were Indians. I never tried to see, I looked past it. That's all that I was taught. What ends up happening with a lot of these people that move that are not white, whether they're Chinese, Indian, whatever variation of Asian, etc., they stick to their people group. They have their own cities. It's all Chinese, let's say. They have every church they go to is all Chinese. The people they work with are all Chinese. The people that they live with are all Chinese. Everything is Chinese. But you want to live in a predominantly white country. You don't want to assimilate with white people. It seems like every other race is okay with not assimilating with whites. Whites are the only ones that are taught you have to assimilate. You have to accept. Don't be a bigot. Don't be a racist. But the question that I was waiting to ask here is, so I think there's kind of a spectrum of race realism on one side, and then on the other side, it's all culture. You know, like, because it's without a shadow of a doubt that black culture in the United States is extremely violent. It's very broken. And so do you chalk that up to it's all culture? Do you chalk it up to it's all race realism? Or do you say that it's kind of somewhere in between?
I would go into a race realism because wherever you see these people increase in number, you see crime and violence increase, whether it's in Western Europe, Southern Europe, Eastern Europe, and in their own countries. There is partially a culture because naturally, I think it's possibly related to the way they're designed, but they're backwards thinking people. So they look towards, like in Africa, the issue is that they look towards the past, what their ancestors did. And they also have a version of tall poppy syndrome that you see in Western countries, but they'll if you go to Africa, and you build them like wells or something like that, they'll dismantle the wells and sell the parts, right? They don't have there's no word in their language for maintenance in almost any African language. That word doesn't exist to maintain things. So there is a little bit of the cultural, side of things. Their language has an issue. They don't understand the concept. They also, like, if you start making money selling little like rice patties because you found a tree to go under and people like to stand under the tree and buy your rice patties, someone will go cut down that tree to ensure you don't get ahead. That is how their culture works. My wife's from Africa. She's, my whole family, they're all from Africa. And that's how it is. Uganda, Tanzania, no, not South Africa. That's how it is across the board. And so that's one issue. However, there is also the race realism aspect of, like, it's a really, really tough thing because you can't just chalk it up to culture. I think that there's exceptions. Like, I don't think that all black people have a low IQ. I don't think it's safe to say that. But I think that genetic studies have been done, and the problem is that about 40% of African Americans, particularly, this is not all individual ethnicities in Africa, right? But particularly the slave class or ex-slave class in the United States, like 40% of the group would have like a statistically extremely low IQ compared to a normal Caucasian person. So it's not that like 100% of black people are dumb or that you can like write off all black people as stupid. This is why everyone knows black people that are really normal and just, whatever. But still, like, what's the chances that Ketanji Brown Jackson uses the phrase "full stop" and crashes her Nissan Altima into the front of SCOTUS building and then blames the marble steps for getting in her way? That actually didn't happen. But no, but she is full stop. And what is it, the chance that it's all these minority women with lesbian haircuts that are the ones fighting against the Constitution? There's obviously something deeper there. And I think I'll just, to answer the question about race realism, this is why I think everyone's kind of right at the same time. Do you know how dangerous it is if any group of people, you have 4 out of 10 that are like extremely low IQ, 2 or 3 that are below average IQ, and then they also have a cultural tribalism together? What happens when one of them starts running because they're stupid and they start running? What happens when they all start running and following the group? Maybe one of them doesn't run, and that person's gets along with you and me, and they move out of their neighborhood and they live around us and they're totally fine, which is why I can't write them all off for their skin color. Never would, never can. That still poses a threat to me that in a group of 10 people, 7 of them, like, it only takes one stupid person that's a really, really low IQ, or 4 of them to start the problem, but 7 out of 10 are going to follow the crowd. That's what I think we have. We have a combination of IQ differences with tribalistic cultural crowd mentality that leads to an in-group preference that leads towards chaos and a lack of order that cannot integrate into our society. So I think we have a very, very systemically problematic issue, and we never focus on the real problem. We're just focused on the ones that do succeed in our culture, which they do exist. But in order to succeed, we still have to lower standards, like in college, workplace, and everything to integrate them.
Absolutely. I mean, if we look at what happened with Carmelo Anthony and the white kid that he stabbed in the chest, I think it was either yesterday or a few days ago that the courts determined that we're going to press charges that it was first-degree murder. And I saw a few black liberal content creators on TikTok saying, "Oh, there you go, white people. You got what you wanted." This kid is a stone cold thug. I mean, he's a murderer. He stabbed a white kid in the chest. And these are the same people that 5 years ago, without seeing all of the evidence, were saying Derek Chauvin, this white police officer, he's guilty. And then it come to find out that George Floyd had a bunch of fentanyl in his system. They don't hesitate to jump the gun to blame white people for everything. But when one of their own, tribalism, as you said, literally kill a white kid at a high school track meet that he has a knife with him in his backpack, why do you have... Those questions aren't asked. He's innocent. He matches our skin color. We're tribal, and we're going to defend him, and we're going to give him $500,000 or more dollars. And we're going to get even angrier at the fact when a white woman says the N-word, and she reflexively gets $600,000 in GoFundMe. That's actually worse than stabbing a white person and killing them. It's just ridiculous, and it's absolutely tribal.
No, it is tribal. They stick together. And unfortunately, what ends up happening is they glorify a lot of these people. As you mentioned, the stabbing. Then you had the other guy that I remember Kamala Harris prompted up a couple of years ago where he got shot in the back by police. They said it was like this whole thing, but he was actually reaching for a gun. So there's so many of these stories where they take these individuals who are committing crimes, who are doing bad things, and they put them on a pedestal. They say that they're victims of the system. And it actually, in the long run, I mean, what they should be doing is these are the types of things that they should be pushing away from. You're making us look bad. You're destroying how us as a group united are making us look evil. But unfortunately, they don't do it. And it's funny too, because as we're talking about tribalism and people coming together, I mean that just really shows you any race can come together and protect one of their own, no matter how vicious the crime was, no matter how evil it was. But the second a group of white people come together and try to protect each other, it's like, oh my gosh, how dare they? This is the worst thing ever. You know, that they're sick. They're trying to destroy our nation. And, you know, for us to believe that we need to have unity within our tribe, pretty much, you know, that should not be something that should be bad. That should not be something that's looked down on. You know, you could say it's just like the meme. They always say, you know, like the Power Rangers, you have the red power, black power, yellow power, and then the white power, you got to like keep your hand down. You know, it's viewed as the worst thing ever.
Yeah, I think also this conversation is an interesting one. It's an interesting conversation because the question is like, you know, no culture has ever successfully integrated Africans. You know, they've never done that. And nobody's ever tried to have multicultural societies. Only empires have been, by proxy, become multicultural. And then they've all collapsed. And, you know, then you have this false narrative going on in our society, which is like, oh, it's reverse colonization. You go, they're not colonizing us. They're not building great things within our midst. Like, it's not like a bunch of people are coming from like Ethiopia and then like building these grand structures and beautiful skyscrapers and giving us new technologies that we never had. Like, I might actually welcome them. In fact, if they were colonizing us, I'd rather have that than what we have now. I'd rather have them come in and build something that we couldn't obtain. You know, like what could they give us? But instead, they're more like parasitic, right? Today. These are parasites. They're people that are coming into a system. They don't respect our history. They don't respect our culture. You know, that mayoral candidate, Mamdani, you know, he became a citizen within 2 years. He started leading a civil rights group to tear down monuments of American forefathers. Mm-hmm. You come in and you become on paper an American, and then you want to erase our history. Like that is what I'm talking about. We're not talking about racism anymore in 2025. We're not talking about discrimination. We're talking about our survival. I'm talking about whether my children have a country to grow up in where they're protected and have the same rights that I have, right? We aren't talking about a country, you know, it's a country where my wife, whether or not, like in England, they're already having it, you know? If she gets raped on the street, it's like, does she get justice, you know? And also, why is she getting raped on the street? Was that preventable? Yeah, it was. Well, why is it happening? Because even BBC the other day was covering for the Pakistani, you know, rape gangs or whatever that were going on. It's because people don't want to be racist. And this fear that's been put into Western people, into white people to not be racist, supersedes their survival instincts. And I find it to be so odd to override your own biology, your own, you know, understanding of life, to where even Christians are the problem. The liberal church too, which is most Christians. I think most evangelicals are very liberal and they don't even know it. You know, there's this fight between Joel Webbin and some of these Christian pastors to enact Christian nationalism, and all these pastors are like, this is so wrong. Don't integrate politics and race and stuff into your faith. And I go, but you know what's weird? Doesn't God call us to protect and to provide for our wives? It talks us to treat our wives like Christ loved the church. And part of loving my wife is ensuring that she's safe on the streets. Like I mentioned, that a Pakistani rape gang isn't going to attack her or my children. Do you know that reading Psalms in the morning does not prevent Pakistani rape gangs from coming into my country? I mean, it might give me some solace when I have to deal with the fact that a strange man's penis has been inside my wife, you know, on the street by force. It might, you know, while I'm coping, but how do I prevent that? Well, I'm going to have to make tough decisions to prevent certain people from coming to my country, prioritize my race and my people. And that's not a hateful position. That's a position of love for my wife and my family. It doesn't make me look like a mean guy. I don't really care. You know, I don't really care if I look bad to people. I don't really care if people don't like me. I don't care if people think I'm evil. What matters is truth. What matters is what's actually the result. And if people want to sit around here and complain that we're trying to make the world a safer and better place for them, then that you be the judge. But if you actually interview liberals, particularly white liberals in metropolitan areas, They seem to be totally okay with the crime, totally okay with it's like a part of city life, they say, right? It's just this is sort of just what it you accept it is. And a lot of these churches are playing a role because they're telling their people to be passive. They're telling them to just like, to not confuse God and the Republican Party. And it's like, why are you telling your people to be pussies? You know what I mean? And a lot of these pastors are pussifying their congregation. And to me, I see a lot of Christians. I see Christianity as being a weak force in our country. I see it being a crippling force. Evangelical Christianity, particularly, is a crippling factor, and it also is a huge reason why we support Israel, which I find to be a detrimental thing to our society. I don't know how you justify Christian nationalism with the fact that evangelical, non-denominational Christianity has been one of the most gutting forces in our society. Made the men weak, the women more powerful. It's feminist. It makes God seem like a hippie, and it's turned us into some very weird queer nation. And it's like, Orthodox and Catholicism work, but I don't know how you justify that. That's an interesting perspective there.
Yeah, there was a lot there to unpack. I'll try to start with the end and unpack a few things that you also had mentioned. There was a Super Bowl commercial. It's pretty notorious at this point where it shows Jesus washing the feet of LGBT people. It shows Jesus washing the feet of minority groups, etc. And the message really is Jesus loves everyone, unlike you bigoted Christians. The part that they didn't show is that Jesus also told those sinners to go forward and sin no more. Follow me, turn away from that life, and don't sin anymore, okay? So there's another call to action that they omitted. Jesus is not some pacifist hippie. I mean, Jesus was going against people that he knew wanted to kill him. The Pharisees, he understood and knew that they wanted to crucify and kill him, and they were plotting for his crucifixion for a long period of time. He knew this, and he knew what the prophecies were. He knew what the end would be. How many men do you know, if they knew that they were going to have to wear needles on their head, bleeding down, getting whipped, being crucified and crucified to death, and then getting stabbed with a harpoon to prove that you're dead, how many guys would actually follow through with that? So, I mean, Jesus is the last thing but a pacifist. He is the epitome of what a masculine man looks like. So I'd say that. And then the other thing is I agree that there's a lot of pussification with churches in the United States. And this idea that we shouldn't fight for what we love, our family, our culture, our people, is not a Christian value. I mean, we surrender to Christ, but if we're going to have a bunch of people that want to come here and behead us and rape us and cause harm to our family, we do stand up against it. Jesus went into the church of the Pharisees and whipped them out. Jesus didn't go in, turn a cheek, and leave. It is true, it's a biblical principle to turn our cheek, but it's also a biblical principle to stand for everything you love and care about.
Yeah, no, we need to be stronger. Unfortunately, the church, a lot of times, you said, makes us very passive, and then they tell us that we need to just sit around and eventually Jesus will come. And that's why you get a lot of Christians who just, when they see evil things happen, they're like, well, time's getting closer. At least I got my Bible, so I'll be okay. And it's like, no, we need to step forward. We need to show strength. We need to protect those who we love. We need to protect our families, and we need to make sure that we're going out there and doing what's right. So, unfortunately, a lot of the churches aren't that way, and a lot of the churches too, they're pretty much like, have so much political propaganda. It's sickening. I know recently Candace Owens, she just put out a video yesterday how a pastor was getting paid, I think it was like $2,500 to go up there and talk bad about her and Tucker Carlson and made this whole stink. And that's what you're seeing. You're seeing when we go to these churches, either one, they want us to adopt the LGBTQ plus ABCD, whatever it is. They want us to adopt the Ukraine war. They want us to adopt the Israel, help Israel, send money to Israel. We send enough money to Israel as it is. We do it with tax dollars every day. And what they do is churches have become more politicized, where they try to get us to fall into these agendas that we should be staying far away from. Church is not supposed to be that way. Church is supposed to be going to learn the word of God, to digest it, and then go out and be people that help gather people in, and then also protect against the wicked. But we don't see that anymore. And it's very sad, because that's why me personally, I have a hard time finding a church that I actually like, because a lot of the times it's just messages that don't align with what God really would intended. And then as far as washing the feet, that's a perfect example. He did, he cares for everybody, loves everybody, but then he's saying, get away from those wicked ways. It's just like when people ask me about the gay community, do you hate gay people? And it's like, it's two different things. No, I don't hate gay people. I love everybody who's a child of God, but do I agree with their actions and what they're doing? That's absolutely not. And I think a lot of times they try to lump some of it all into one. Like, either you love them and you accept all their wicked ways, or you hate them. And that's not the case. We can love each other, but doesn't mean that we have to be for whatever they're doing. You could say, no, this is not right what you're doing. God wanted man and a woman to be together. They didn't want man and man to be together. You know, but does that mean I hate you? No, it doesn't mean I hate you, but I do believe you're doing it wrong and you're not following the path God set for you.
I thought you were going to say people ask you what it's like to be in the gay community.
Yeah.
That's all I was like. I was like, you know, people ask me all the time what it's like being gay. No, but jokes aside, and I agree with you. I just I try to be honest. I'm not against Christianity. I am a Christian. I just know what sort of led me away from the church itself, and it's really not the church. It's really just evangelicalism. You know what I mean? And I'm finding my way back. I'd say God is pulling me back, into His fold. But I also have to say, I'm not going to let these people stop me from doing what I know is right. I am telling you, I know I'm biased, but I have the cutest little kids. I really, really love them. They are the cutest little blonde hair, blue-eyed little ninjas. You know what I mean?
You want to protect them as much as possible. But then you have people like, was it Mamdani?
Mamdani.
He has a video I have in there as well where he's talking about where he says he wants to empty the prisons because violence is an artificial construct. He's also the guy that wants to go ahead and he wants to put, I think it was...
He wants to tax white areas too. He wants to put more taxes on white communities. That's what he said. He used the phrase white, by the way.
He wants to put $65 million towards gender-affirming care. So basically the mutilation of our children and get them to deny who they are. We're creating God's image, but they want us to create to these pretty much one of Vivek's deities by the surgeries that we have. So these people coming to our country that have these types of views, have these type of values, they're destroying us. And over time, as I mentioned before, it's just a cancer that's going to consume us. And we have to stand up against it. We have to say this is not right. And we need to reject these types of people.
No, I agree. And by the way, speaking of this, there's more that's going on here, more development. So Mario Nafal had just reported this, but it turns out that the Trump admin is revoking the legal status for 500,000 Haitians, which is insane, the amount of people that came into this country. Check out this clip that we have here. Watch.
And Molly, remember the Haitian surge under the Del Rio Bridge? DHS just moments ago announcing they are terminating temporary protective status, or TPS, for more than 500,000 Haitians living in the U.S. under that protection, arguing conditions in Haiti have improved enough for them to go home now, and allowing them to stay would be, quote, contrary to the national interest of the U.S. TPS for these Haitians expires in August and takes effect in September, so that effectively gives them a little more than 2 months to self-deport.
Yeah,
Molly?
a short amount of time. A lot of people affected by that. Griff Jenkins, thank you very much.
I love the news, and that's going to suck. You're going to go back to your shithole country. Anyway, back to you, Jenkins. Yeah, that's how our country should be. Well, I mean, that does suck. And unfortunately, we're not an open society. We are a country club and you didn't pay your dues. It's like, this is no comprende, do not pass go, do not click $200. I don't want any Haitians living here.
Yeah, didn't in the Dominican Republic, they expelled them as well at one point.
They killed all the white people twice in their country and didn't want any white people. So don't come to our country. If you don't want that, then if we're justifying bombing Gaza because they elected Hamas, per se, and it's like, well, that's what they elected, so they all deserve to die. Well, then, hey, you're lucky we aren't bombing you in Haiti. That's what I have to say. Because technically, if you elect a bad government, we're supposed to kill your children, is what I've been told recently. That's what our government said. So.
I believe it was you who was telling me that you knew another reporter that went to Haiti or something, and then they heard like the most craziest noise and like
like satanic rituals are going on in the street outside their hotel window, and they're like doing sacrifices in the street and stuff and screaming, and they were killing someone. Yeah.
So this is the type of stuff that we don't want coming into our country at all. You've seen what happened to Haiti. Haiti is a mess. It's a shithole. It really is. And as I mentioned before, I believe that they were in the Dominican Republic for a while too, and then they ended up expelling them out of there, telling them, hey, listen, guys, you can't live here no more. They made them leave their homes. They made leave everything. So this way they could protect their country even more. And to see that we're sending them back, I mean, we should be sending them back if you came here illegally, or if you used the that asylum as a tool to try to get yourself in here. That should not be allowed. And to see that we're rounding them up and getting them out, it's a very good thing.
Yeah, I actually fully agree with that as well. I mean, it is pretty much, there's not a lot to say about it, but I don't know what you think about this, but I don't think we want Haitians here. I don't want them here. Yeah. Is that bad? Is that a non-Christian position? I don't want them here.
There's white Haitians.
Well, very few. Very few. And I'll let you know, they look white, but they're
You know, it's interesting on that
Not
island. You have Dominican Republic that's succeeding and doing well, better than they've done in a very long time. And on the other side of that border, same geographical land, you have Haiti, and look at the way that their country is, right? It's just interesting. You have a government that is majority white, Hispanic but white, and you have a government that's majority not white. And look at the output that both governments are doing.
Yeah, I think a lot of it too has to do with Dominican Republic and Haiti is when you had two different countries that came in and took over both areas. One, what it did is it used all the resources, made the slaves, and then tried to pretty much strip the land as much as they can, you know, so they couldn't grow crops no more. And then you had the Dominican Republic, which was a country that I believe they kind of integrated with the locals and then kind of built a society that way. But long story short, the way Haiti is now, the way that their views, their beliefs, and the way that they carry themselves is not good at all. You know, do I think there's a chance there could be some good people in that country? I'm not saying all of them are bad, not at all. You know, far from that. But at the same time, though, we have to make sure who we're bringing in here. And these 500,000 of random people that we have coming over our borders just to infiltrate our country, you know, as Trump said, eating our cats and our dogs is not something that we really need. And we need to make sure that, you know, whoever does come here is vetted. And I'm sure none of these people were really vetted.
No, they're not. I'm going to see where we're at here in terms of, okay. We talked a little about Zohran Mamdani, so I don't go too much into that because we'll be talking about more of that over time. I wanted to bring this up just so you know, a little update on the Israel war. It turns out that the ceasefire, everyone mocked us and was like, oh, you know, there's a ceasefire, you know, Trump did it. Well, it turns out that Israel actually bombed southern Lebanon again, despite the standing ceasefire between the countries. Israel Defense Minister Katz said that Israel will implement a Lebanon model in Iran where targeted strikes against potential threats may take place regardless of a truce. So, yeah.
They love themselves some war over there in Israel.
They like the targeted strikes.
The government, they love it.
Yeah, you know, this is great. I just, look at that. Sorry, I'm laughing. It's just like, I love the ceasefire. Americans have become so propagandized by the neocons that they think that targeted strikes isn't war. Like, these countries are in an endless war. They're not on a full-on ground invasion, right? It's like the equivalent of being like, you know, World War I never happened because they made a line. They made some trenches, and they never really crossed the line. They just shelled each other for years. It's like, yeah, we called that a world war. You know what I mean? Shelling each other for years was called a war. These countries are just shelling each other, at war with each other.
Yeah.
You know? And the Lebanese do not really like Israelis, and it makes sense because they're constantly bombing them. But it's like, it seems like there's one neighbor over there that can't get along with anyone, right? And obviously I'm talking about Gaza, which is why it should be wiped off the face of the earth. Turn it into a parking lot. And that's okay, because calling for genocide on X is okay, as long as it's one of the enemies of Israel. But
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's messed up.
In
I'm
Gaza,
joking,
they
but
actually had a report come out. They found that soldiers in Gaza were ordered to fire upon unarmed Palestinians near food distribution sites. That's in there as well. So they're doing
Where's
a lot
that?
of crazy. That's in there. That's 4 down from there.
Oh, right here. Oh, well, okay. Well, we have to also, you do actually need to be careful with that report, though, because, I mean, as much as I actually trust Al Jazeera more than I trust Fox News. To
Yeah,
be
there
completely
was
honest.
a bunch of them.
But that is Al Jazeera. Check that out. That is Qatari state media, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So who knows if that's true?
They Marjorie Taylor Greene also came out with Tucker Carlson talking about, and that video's in there as well, talking about how you know, you're pretty much required to agree with whatever Israel says, and we see that time and time again with our politicians.
Okay, let me man, this computer just like sometimes just stops working. It's like absolutely insane. I don't know why. And I just can't get like things to load, and then it's like this computer just sucks, man. Like just trying to get it to load, and then it just whatever. Okay, listen to this.
Since I've become a member of Congress since 2021, we have voted on 22 resolutions for Israel, 22 of them. All kinds of resolutions, you know, denouncing anti-Semitism, supporting Israel. We voted on 22 of those. We never vote on resolutions proclaiming great things about America or defending certain Americans or defending Americans in general. But we have voted on 22 resolutions in the House defending Israel.
How many of you voted yes on?
I don't know my exact record. The last one I voted no on. And then the one before that, I voted present because I just started getting sick of it.
Well, that's kind of it. I mean, I've always noticed this, certainly in the last, I don't know how many years it's been, a while, where Republicans in the Congress are, always talking about Israel. I'm not against Israel. I've always liked Israel, so haven't really noticed it. Okay, fine. Love Israel, love any country, whatever. But it feels like something has changed. Like why? And clearly it has for you. What is that thing?
Well, I think here's the situation. It's coming to a point where it's so obvious all the time in everyone's language, the social media posts they put out, the statements that they make. They have to proclaim Israel. They have to proclaim their faith and loyalty in Israel and how they, Israel is our greatest ally. And it's a statement that has to be made over and over and over again, to the point it's becoming like, wait a minute, what about our own country? What about our own people? And we have so many problems here in America. And we talk about this all the time. $37 trillion in debt. Just like you and I were speaking before, our kids' generations. My kids are 22, 25, and 27. And our children's generation, they can't afford rent. They can't afford to buy a house. They can't afford insurance. They can't buy a new car. They can't find a good paying job. They're living month to month, paycheck to paycheck, credit card bills stacked up. And they literally look to the future going, how am I ever going to realize the American dream? And it seems hopeless for them. But then in Congress, everyone is chasing and pursuing and proclaiming their loyalty to a foreign country.
The whole point of this is it's kind of insane. The secrets of, in Congress, obviously people know you are required to repeat the Israel's our greatest ally. This is like not really a lack of knowledge that we don't acknowledge this. It's more or less people are arguing with us. This is a good thing or a bad thing. Like, is America put on earth to make sure Israel exists, or is Israel just its own country and exists on its own? I believe that, our country has been captured. We all know that. Like, that's not a problem, but it's not just our country. It's not just our government. It's our churches too. You talk to the average Christian here and they're going to tell you, these are God's chosen people. And it just really breaks my heart that, you don't really believe in God. If you think that, you don't really know Jesus. I don't mean you're not saved. It's just like, you don't know God. You don't think that the blood of Christ is what brings you into his chosen. Like, you don't think, so then God doesn't love Jesus? Like, the Father doesn't love his Son because it's all about a genetic bloodline? It's not about the blood of the cross now? So the blood of the cross is weaker than the genetic bloodline of Ashkenazi European Jews? Like, that's such a bizarre statement. So you're cheapening the blood. It cheapens our Constitution. And I feel like, we got to solve this problem in our country. If we're going to get into a position to actually break free, you've got to break free from this Semitic lie that you have to be loyal to this country and these people in order to be a good Christian or to be a good American. It's just not true.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think some of the bigger neocons, such as Charlie Kirk, I don't remember exactly when he tweeted this, but he said that Islam is not compatible with Western civilization. Well, neither is rejecting Christ. And they'll say that the Islam Quran, it's gross. The things they teach in it are gross. But most Orthodox Jews believe in the Talmud, and they'll try to argue it away and say, well, these are just rabbis having a discussion. This is not the law that we follow. Well, why are two rabbis talking about being able to marry a 3-year-old child and have sex with her and be able to marry her through intercourse? That's what they speak about, some of the subjects that these two pervert rabbis are discussing in the Talmud. If you're going to call Islam disgusting and incompatible with Western culture, so is the Talmud. So, I mean, I don't know why they're so quick. Actually, I do know why. We all know why. They're so quick to criticize Islam, but they won't hold the same level of criticism to Talmudic Orthodox Judaism.
Yes, I discriminate against Semitic religions equally. I'm an equal opportunity discriminator. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like I'm like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I'm not the Terminator. I'm the discriminator. That would be hey Crowder, that would have been a funny skit.
I'm
for
the
you.
Discriminator. I discriminate on everybody.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you start noticing and you become cyborg. No, but it is true. It's like we have to decide what religion we're going to be as a country, because with our religion, with our faith in God, is going to be a stringent set of morals that we're going to live by and abide by. And you know what? I don't mind. If we want to make more things illegal, I can tell you this. We're going to be one religion in this country, and that religion is going to be Mormonism. Exactly. I'm just kidding. No, but
you just want the magic underwear.
I just want the magic underwear. I want to fly like Peter Pan. No, but it is true. it is unfortunate. And the reason why people say, why do you talk about the subject a lot? Because it's a very serious subject. It's like, why do you eat all the time? It's like, cause what are you talking about? Why do I have to explain to you why I eat? It's like, hey, there is a foreign occupational force that has co-opted the most important thing to us, our faith in God. And they've also co-opted our government, which is what rules us. And we have to root this out. You know, we have to rid our country of this occupation. This occupation is dangerous, and it's even more dangerous is then the Muslims, like you say, go, oh, you don't want this occupation? We don't like it either. You're like, dude, I don't want you. You guys are all going to have to go, okay? And I think we have to define ourselves. Do we really want Muslims and Somalis and these people in our country? Probably not, okay? But like we joked about last night, everyone's like, oh, the CCP, you really want to live in China? It's so bad. The Chinese government owns your house. Well, in America, Jewish bankers own my house. So it's like, you know, communist Jews, communist Chinese, they all own it. You know what I mean? It's like, it doesn't really matter. So it's like, you're not really free in this country. There's no freedom, you know? So I don't own my car. The Jewish banks own my car. It's true, right? That's just the truth. They've made a whole system where it's like cheaper to lease now. It's even cheaper to lease your car. So that's why I told you lease cars. They're commodities. They're not investments. It's like they lose their value. It's like just get rid of them after a few years, and then people just go, oh, but you lose so much money. Yeah, it's a toy. It's not an investment. At the same time, I'm just saying it's like, hey, we got to get these people out of our country. So I just want to say it. We do, man.
And as Marjorie Taylor Greene touched base on, the only time that, you know, Democrats and conservatives can agree on something is it comes to Israel. It's always like all the politicians have to come together. They have to protect Israel. But when it comes to America, if it's the conservatives, they want to limit our free speech and what we're allowed to say. And if it comes to the Democrats, they want to have open borders and protect these illegal immigrants. So their plan is never to help make America prosper. Unfortunately, it seems like they always choose the policies that help destroy us from within, you know, like dying a slow death. But the second Israel's brought up, you know, that's the second that everybody's like, all right, we agree with whatever it is. Send them as much money as they want. If we got to shut TikTok down so people don't say bad things about them, let's do it. If we got to, you know, go to endless wars where our sons and our children are going to die, so be it. You know, but what about the American people? What about us? What about actually putting us first, protecting us, and making sure that we have a nation that is going to prosper and something our children and our families can have in the future? You know, they have no interest in that.
Yeah, and to kind of conclude today, you know, I thought you had some bangers, some good clippable moments. Put that on Instagram, especially your last rant there about, you know, getting everybody out. You know, we're not trying to preach hate here. What we're trying to talk about is the need to have standards. Okay, it's very basic idea. So our way forward, I want to get your final thoughts here. You can be wordy if you want to, but it's like, are we on the right path forward? Is what Trump's doing, ending birthright citizenship, beginning to deport the Haitians, are we on the right path? Is it enough? And what should we be doing? What is the path forward? How far should we be going? Because I think there's a lot more we could be doing that we're not, but I'm not going to complain. You know, I'm not going to complain because I'm liking the direction this is headed in.
I think it's a good step, you know, protecting our sovereign nation. We don't want to corrupt the safety, the prosperity of our people. I think there's a lot more that needs to be done. I'm going to continue to return to say that we need to reestablish Christianity as our moral standard in the conservative movement, hence the name conservative. What are we conserving? It's not just economic principles. There's moral, social principles at play. And when Fox News and a lot of these conservative organizations are hiring, you know, literally DEI people, you know, and the conservative side will always say, we're against DEI. And then they'll hire a girl that puts her tits on TV, you know, just sticking her cleavage out, that is just a mouthpiece for whatever they're wanting her to say. She's a DEI position. When they hire gay people that don't have really anything to say, they're a mouthpiece. That's a DEI position. When they're hiring token minority groups, token black people to be a mouthpiece, that's a DEI position. So we need to get rid of all of that. We need to hire people based off merit. I think this is a step in the right direction. I don't want to see Trump bombing another country in the Middle East for the benefit of Israel. I don't want to see that. I want to see us become not 100%, but a lot more isolationist. I want us to, again, reestablish Christianity as the moral standard. I want the conservative movement to know which direction it's going in, not start adopting hedonistic culture, bringing a porn star to the RNC, hiring people that are DEI. I want to see straight white Christian men being put on these platforms. You know, I want to see people that represent majority of our country being put onto these platforms. But Christ first. So I know that there's a lot of questions about race and stuff. And as long as that they're based Christian principled people, and they crap on white people so much, I think that I want to see more straight Christian white men. I do. And I also get a lot of conflict with, I want to see less women in politics too. I don't want to see as many women in conservative politics. I don't want to be lectured to by a woman. I don't watch, whatever news media that I'm absorbing, and I want to hear a woman, lecturing me on that. I think women do have a place in politics and conservative media, and I think that's really to preach the gospel, preach whatever the message is to other women to become more traditional. I don't want to see them on the front lines of debates. When I see a Jubilee debate or whatever the debate is, I don't want to see a woman on the front lines debating our values. I want to see a base Christian dude debating those values. So Trump has a lot further to go, but it's a lot better than if we would have had Kamala, whatever her name is, in office.
Awesome. Sarah Stark on Death Watch there. That was crazy. I was like, wow. No, but seriously, I mean, hey, that is honestly, if someone's like, oh, do you listen to women, political commentators? Like, I don't listen to women. You know what I mean? Which is kind of crazy. So I actually don't. I joke with my wife. I found the frequency that they speak at, and I phased them out. I got this thing in my, it just cancels out the wavelengths, and it just, you know what I'm talking about? It's like, yeah.
Charlie Brown. Wah, 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 wah.
Well, it just goes like this. And if I hear that for too long, I'm like, silence, stop. I just want you to be kind and make me food and be nice. You know what I mean? I didn't hire you for your opinions. Please. Please. Hey, you missed a good moment when he was like, we need to stop putting gay people on screen. You should have just switched to Hennessy. Like, you know what I mean? Like right? He's like, and we don't want to see gay people in our, yeah. No, but he's the one who's cooking Sarah.
He had to throw me in the mix.
He was cooking Sarah, and she's not even here to defend herself. No, but go ahead. I mean, you guys obviously have a lot to say on this stuff too. But your final thoughts on the position, on where we're headed. Is this good? Is this bad? Is this enough? Where should we head?
I feel like we're scratching the surface of really what we need to be doing. Unfortunately, I'm hoping that I hope that we have more of this. But a lot of times what we see on the party, as far as conservative parties, we see them come out, they'll pass a little thing here and there. Everybody gets excited. It's like, yeah, we're going in the right direction. Okay, women, men are out of women's bathrooms, which is good. Men shouldn't be in women's bathrooms. But the next thing you know, it's like, okay, now we're going to go bomb a foreign country and we're going to send all this money over here. So I would like to see our government tighten up even more if we're actually going to dig ourselves out of these holes. The policies that they're putting in place, limited, as I mentioned before, limited speech, maybe, endless wars, all these things are not going to get us to where we need to be. Trying to bring H-1Bs, drag them into our country, that's just going to, bombard us with foreigners, which is another thing that we don't need. So I think the biggest concern is that these politicians that are actually in office, they're all bought and sold majority. And a lot of times you have organizations like AIPAC or these other big organizations that they make sure that they put you in that spot. And if you're not willing to follow all their rules or whatever policies they want you to pass, they'll make sure that you're replaced on the next term. One person who speaks, I think, that speaks for America, for our values is Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie is a good example of someone who's going against AIPAC right now. He's also speaking against foreign intervention in these other countries. And just being pretty much following Israel wherever they want us to go. But what you're seeing now is the attack is being thrown towards him. So do I think that we're heading in the right direction? I don't have faith in our political leaders, maybe Democrat or Republican. I really don't have much faith in them, but I do hope for the best. I never wish for Trump to fail. I hope Trump does well. I hope he follows through with a lot of the things that he's saying because, that's our president. That's our leader. He has done good things. He kept me out of jail. But then in the same sense, I just hope that he sticks to the agenda he's saying. If he's going to remove these illegals, let's remove these illegals. If you say you're going to be the president of no more war, then hey, let's have no more war. But doing this half and half and only using sound bites to get everybody excited, that's not going to get us nowhere as a nation. And, putting out these different kinds of posts that they have saying, this is it. we're doing it, people. 20D chest. I don't think that's going to get us there. I think we actually need to our politicians need to tighten up. And the one people they always say, our politicians run rampant, and they're like, who holds them accountable? Well, we're supposed to, as American people, we're supposed to hold them accountable, and we don't see a lot of that.
Yeah, these are such good rants. We got to start giving people closing thoughts like that. I like final statements, and honestly, the guy who's given the best statements today, final thoughts, Mendoza. Final thoughts. Been crazy. It's been too much. You've been yapping too much.
Have I even been on screen once? I don't think I have.
Yeah,
well, we showed you 1 second.
Yeah.
Oh, have we? Well, yeah, I don't know. And yeah, I wasn't paying attention. So
we have like warm cameras and like red, and then it goes over to him, and it's like he's in the winter. Actually, he's on the southern hemisphere. He's in a different season.
Yeah, I'm past the wall. I'm past the ice wall. I'm in
the fourth wall.
Yeah, I'm in
no, but I mean, you think we're doing enough? You think this is good? I think it's a good direction. I mean, you represent you're a nationalist right wing guy, and I think I'm pretty happy to see these aggressive moves on immigration. I just don't know if it's enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to see, but then it does kind of make me worry a little bit that it's kind of just like it's like red meat for the base.
Right.
Like they'll do stuff like this, but then they'll go and then they'll be like, oh, actually the ceasefire doesn't apply to these targeted strikes because we're implementing the Lebanon model. So it's just like, it does seem like red meat for the base. And I do kind of feel like we're kind of past the point of no return, which I think Hennessy so graciously pointed out earlier. What I would say, and I think I meant to mention this last night, is probably what's more feasible is for certain types of people who want to form their own nation to go to different parts of the country. I know the Pacific Northwest, there's a lot of people doing this in Idaho, actually. It's probably a lot more feasible for people to go to those regions of the country and actually just build the society that they want. And even then, who knows that they might not just dump a bunch of Salvadorians. Like I've been to Idaho once, and I was actually surprised to see any Hispanics there, and there were. So, that's probably like the best option right now if we want to get that more not ethno state, but something close to something that more resembled the original colonies. I think that's probably the solution to that. But yeah, in terms of mass deportations, those types of things, I think it's all just a pipe dream, unfortunately.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that as well. I'd say this: we're gonna have to find a solution, perhaps one that is of the ultimate nature. Some may call it the final solution. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to apply to art school and hopefully get rejected. So I'll see you soon on the other side. As they like to say, they'll say adios, we say ouch. I'm kidding. No, okay, but anyway, it's true, right? It's anyway, yeah, it's like they say don't point with your fingers. You seen that one? I'm just kidding. No, all right, yeah, exactly. Don't point with your fingers. How do you point then? Jokes aside, thank you guys for watching another episode of The Rift live Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Remember, there's a episode of Almost Serious tomorrow. We have one-on-one interviews on Saturdays, but to promote her channel, Sarah Stock interviewed Dr. Taylor Marshall, I think his name is, Catholic theologian. So that'll be on tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Time live. That'll be really, really great. They'll be having a great discussion. So stick around for that. Don't forget to follow our new YouTube channel. It is The Rift TV. So it's Rift TV. You can look it up. It's fantastic. It's really crazy. We barely have 4,300 subscribers. We just started 2 weeks ago, and it already does pretty much as many views per episode as my channel with over 500,000 subs that they ruined. So we're rebuilding our channel, and it's gonna work, and it's doing well. And you guys are really, really appreciate you guys being around. And for those that tuned in the middle of the show, and you're like, you didn't read my super chats. You missed the beginning where I said this was pre-recorded. And I like to just let you guys know, because then I don't know why everyone complains. It's like, you didn't read it. And it's like, hey, there's nothing I could do about it. But I mentioned that tomorrow we're recording our book club for Sunday. So we'll read your super chats. If anyone sent them in, we'll look it up. We'll read them on the show so you can hear it on Sunday at 7 p.m. Reminding you, if you want to win this Kindle, our first book club is Sunday at 7 p.m. With Sarah Stock, myself, Mike, and Mike. We're going to talk about the first 3 chapters of the book, Where the Right Went Wrong by Pat Buchanan. It's covering how Zionists took over the right wing after the Cold War. So that's a really, really good book. You guys should all read it. And every Sunday at 7, we're having our book club. So it's really, really important that you stick with us. The way that you can win this is by sending a picture of yourself watching the original book club episode. It has the green thumbnail, the green thing. And you can either be reading your book, you can be reading your Kindle, you can be watching the show. Just send a picture to mike.mendoza@rifttv.com. And if you don't want your face shown online, I'm going to reiterate this, we're going to show the pictures. just take like the back of your head or something, or like take a picture of like, yourself reading the book. Because we are going to show the pictures of everyone that sent them in, and then we're going to do a raffle. And every week for the next 4 weeks, we're going to be giving away something really cool. So this Sunday, one of you guys is going to win this free Kindle getting shipped to your house worth about $300. It's kind of cool. My guest today, thank you. You've been amazing. You've had incredible insight. Thanks for stopping by on the way in the area. If people want to find you and follow your social media, how can they support you?
Yeah, I post mostly on Instagram, the right corner IG. But if you just put in the right corner, you'll see it. I am also on TikTok. I have an account right now only because TikTok forces you to post the video in order to get the watermark-free version, and that's called the alt-right corner. It's the alternative right. We need to be alternative to whatever these neocon, Christ last, America last people are doing. So you could find me on TikTok for maybe another 10 minutes before they ban me.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know if that's going to last.
No.
I just got my other account. I just walked in and was like, you've been banned. And I was like, we never got a warning. I was like, oh, again?
Yeah.
Man, how many? Like, literally, we didn't get any warnings. I sent it to the group. I'm like,
I've tried posting. They always shut me down.
Yeah, I just got the whole account deleted. And it's like, what did we didn't have any, we had no videos taken out on that account at all. And then we just got the whole account nuked. Last time we got an account nuked, it was Indians that did it. I tried hiring Indians one time to post on my account back when I was in Australia because I didn't have any help. And they got my account nuked and got my Facebook demonetized again and everything. Like, within like a week. I was like, sorry, I did not know I cannot put Bob's and Vagine on there. Dude, oh no, dude, come on. They're always sorry. But there's a documentary about the Ganges River that's on YouTube right now, and it'll change your mind about Indians forever. It's like, there's like dead bodies. I'm like, sir, there's just dead bodies here. And he's like, yeah, they maybe commit suicide or who knows. And you're like, dude, there's just dead bodies laying on the riverside. He's like, yeah, but it doesn't harm us. It's like, dude, that culture has a serious problem, and we could start probably solving it by using soap. You ever seen those AI versions of like the kid coming out instead of being gay, he's telling his parents he uses deodorant? And his dad's like, oh, no son of mine will use deodorant. Anyway, so mean. If people want to find you and follow you, how can they do so?
All right, you can find me at snowflake_news. I'm on Instagram as well as X. I'd love for you to check out the page. And then also make sure that you check out our book club. I found this book to be very interesting, Where the Right Went Wrong. I know I messed up the other day, so where the white went wrong. I'll get that book out eventually, don't worry. But yeah.
The World War II documentary.
Yeah, exactly. So the where the right went wrong, it really it shows how history's playing the same thing out again. We're seeing it's like almost like a blueprint of what we're seeing today. So we'd love for you to come check it out.
Yep, and Mendoza.
Yeah, you can follow me on. Oh wait, I keep forgetting I have my thing now. Follow me on Twitter at Mike Mendoza JPG. Also, as Elijah mentioned, don't forget to email me mike.mendoza@rifttv.com with you reading the book or watching the episode, and then you'll be entered for a chance to win a amazing Kindle. I almost forgot the name of it for a little bit, but yeah, make sure to do that.
Check it out. All right. Have a great rest of the week as always. Oh, just to remind you guys at the end, yes, I told you guys yesterday that when we do pre-recorded episodes, we won't have bonus content on locals. But if you go to ElijahSchaefer.locals.com and join, we've had like 6 new annual signups this week, which is pretty damn good, one every single day. And typically we do about 30 minutes of free content every day, Monday through Thursday, for members only. And right now it's free to join. So make sure you join. But if you want to become a paid member, it would help as well. We appreciate you. Have a great rest of the week as always. Shout out to my guests. And most importantly, shout out to my 2 kids and wife. And may God bless the United States of America. I'm signing out.